Hey, sorry. I'm sitting here trying to do all the things. I'm running late. Actually, I guess I'm not running late. I'm just kind of um was doing everything at the last minute. That's basically what the deal is. But hey, hi, how are you? Welcome to Level Up Single Mom. My name is Vitamin Key. That's how I'm known in these internet streets. But my regular name is Kiana Footman. Welcome to Level Up Single Mom. It is here that I teach single mothers and I guess just Black women in general how to take their life lessons, become savvier, become more stylish, and just make more decisions instead of concessions based off of what they've learned. So that being said, welcome, welcome, welcome. This is our Women Chat Wednesday. It's our weekly powwow where we just kind of sit and talk about thoughts that I've been thinking about certain issues that come up for me that I feel are relevant for women like me. And so this week, if you saw the thumbnail, I don't know how familiar any of you are with the movie The Wiz. I know at one time, you know what? I'm going to say that. I'm just going to talk about like general stuff right now because I don't want to get into that until after I do the intro. But for right now, hey, how are you doing? How was your week? My week has been, I wouldn't say exciting, but it's been pretty cool. I had my baby girl had her first day of school on Tuesday. So we're back to school. And that was really cute. I straightened her hair out and everything, and she was looking so cute. And she's always so sweet. I love her so much. Um, and what else has been going on? That's really pretty much it. It got really, really cool all of a sudden. I live in Philly, and I saw some people in the Discord talking about it was going to be hot where they are, but where I'm at is just like really, really cool. So not really, really, but like hoodie weather, jacket weather. You see, I'm wearing like a denim thingy today, even though it is off the shoulder. It's cool enough. This is the type of weather I like, to be quite honest. Like I like weather where I can wear a nice coat or a jacket or something because I love a good coat or jacket. Hey, Antipodes, welcome. Welcome to Woman Chat Wednesday this week. So yeah, baby girl went to school on Tuesday. She was just the sweetest little thing. She said some of her little friends didn't come back to school this year. She's been at that school since she was in kindergarten, and she's in third grade now, which I can't even believe. Like this year coming up, she'll be 9 years old, and it's my baby. That's how old my oldest was. Well, my oldest was 8, I think, when I got pregnant with my youngest. So that's kind of freaking me out. Hey, True Mystique. Hey, Patty. Welcome. How y'all like the thumbnail? Yeah, so she went off to school. She was really excited. Hi, Dan. She says that. Thank you very much. Yeah, I knew I was going to wear this. I said I'm gonna give it a little pop of color. Just do a little something. But it is getting cooler now, so I will be doing more makeup looks. Just not today because my cousin from New York actually came over to visit, and I was visiting with her. Well, one of my cousins from New York. I was visiting with her, so I literally like at the last minute did the thumbnail, everything. And okay, and I also had something else planned for this week, but I'm actually going to push it back to next week because me and my guest, which is my other cousin who's from New York, we didn't sync up the way I wanted to. And it's fun because it's actually about investing. Like she is I don't want to give it away, but I was like, oh yeah, we're gonna have the and shout out to Moonstone too for that call. Like even though it was a brief call, she really gave like and I'm right there with her. Like when I was learning all this stuff or different things, when I was working at Vanguard, I was just like, not why doesn't people, I understood why people didn't know about it, but I agreed with her. Like I felt like it was a sin that more people didn't know about it. And then like I would complain about it so much. And then when my daughter was going to her senior year last year, she came in after she got her classes and was like, I have a finance class. and they were telling her everything she needed to know. So yeah. Also, because I was rushing, I forgot to put the links to stuff. So I'm gonna go ahead. Petty, first of all, I rarely have outlets. I know most times I think so. I've had like maybe about 20 lives since I started, and I think how many of them do I feel like I had an outline for? I'll say 5 to 7 to be quite honest. I think 5 to 7 of my lives I had an outline for, right? But you know, when you got it, you got it. I like your lives though. I don't have a problem with your lives. She says he watching. Listen, you gotta tighten up. There's a different standard for you guys, I guess. I don't know. Yes, many thanks to Moonstone. She did us a great solid. And sorry, I'm getting tongue tied. Again, that video I posted, some of the things that she was talking about, because I knew we were talking about investment, but I wasn't really sure exactly what we were talking about. But some of the things that she was talking about, like the different rules for taking loans from your 401k and like the different I can't remember exactly what's in that video, but watch that video if you wanted to know more about like the process of taking a loan and the amounts that you can contribute and stuff. Like I made a whole slideshow. It's a slideshow. I have definitions. I have stuff like that. So that's just a good thing to keep on hand. And anybody who doesn't know what I'm talking about, I have the Birth Your Bag level 1 bundle where I have that video I'm speaking of. I'm talking about your 401k. So it's like how to utilize your 401k to get the maximum the maximum return on an investment. I also have in that bundle like basics of credit, and I have stuff for people who are working like really, really low end jobs. And even if you're not working really low end, and I'm saying low end because my brain is going a mile a minute, and that's just the term I'm using. But if you're working a job that you feel like is a little bit beneath you or something like that, different tactics and stuff I use to improve my resume, different tactics I use, how I found my job. Went from working at Ross to working at Vanguard. You know what I mean? Where I learned all this plethora of really important information. So that is the Birth Your Bag bundle. I believe it's like $9.99 or something. If you don't need it, someone else might need it. Thank you, Tori. Hi, Tori. Hi, Mara. I noticed, I don't know where I was, but I noticed you changed your picture. You look cute, Mara. Hi, Moonstone. There you are, the woman of the hour. I was just singing your praises. Thank you so much for what you just did for us. Like it is, I'm right there with you. When I was working for Vanguard, I just was like, this, more people need to know this stuff. So I am really grateful to you and resonate with you in terms of people need to know this stuff. But yeah, so I'm going to go ahead, since it seems like we got a good little mix in here, I'm going to go ahead and we will get started on today's subject matter. Okay, so I'm back. I don't know. It didn't look like it did good on the thing, but we're going to figure that out. I pay too much on the internet for it to be doing that. But let's see here. So based off of today's thumbnail, like I said, I don't know how many of you are familiar with the Wiz. I know we have a range of between like mid to late 20s here to early 40s, early to maybe mid 40s here. So some of you may or may not know the movie The Wiz. When I say that that movie was like my life in my early 20s on up through like my late 20s, because for a lot of reasons, but I think Mainly it was that song, You Can't Win. That song, the Michael Jackson song. I would sing that so much. And when I look back now, I'm just like, I was like affirming the state of mind that I was in and like reinforcing the state of mind that I was in. She said, I know, but kind of brings back bad memories. Oh no. Yeah, no bad news. Yeah. And so that is the thumbnail. That's Eveline, the Wicked Witch of the West. And for anybody who doesn't know what the Wiz is basically a black lens on the Wizard of Oz story, and it was done like in the hood, and everything was made to be familiar to girl. First of all, y'all better follow me on TikTok. I'm about to start cutting up on TikTok because that went. How did I get back? I think I was on TikTok and somebody did something with wouldn't be caught dead in red, or I want to be seen. And then I kind of went down the rabbit hole again. I'm like, oh yeah. And I'm like, oh, I want to do a lot of fun things on TikTok. So I will be messing with that. But it's not weird and it's not funny. It's normal at this point for me. When you are having a certain issue, when there's something going on, when there's something on your mind, and it just keeps coming up and like being put in your face in different ways, in different situations that have nothing to do with each other. And it's serendipitous is what it is. You haven't seen it since you were a kid? Girl, I had the DVD and I used to watch it at least once a week, maybe like twice a week. And one point I was watching it at least twice a week, and I would watch it every time it came on television. So yeah. So, slight story time, right? Because I want to set the precedent for what we're going to talk about. It was last week, end of last week, had someone very close to me, a younger male. We had a conversation. What started out as just a regular conversation wound up being them kind of like lashing out at me and calling me negative. But they were calling me negative. The universe says they want you to hit. Yeah. And they called me negative. What they called me negative was I actually was kind of pressing a sore spot for them. However, what I was trying to say to them was that sometimes you have to challenge yourself, challenge your paradigms. You have to challenge the things that you believe to be true, and like that there's no other alternative, that there's no other way to do certain things, because sometimes you'll find yourself killing yourself almost to make something work, where you're just doing the same thing over and over and over again, trying to get a different result, because you don't believe there's any, like my grandma used to say, there's more than one way to skin a cat, but you don't believe so. So you're just doing this thing in this particular type of way. And I also was saying, like, I felt like, being that I'm a millennial, millennials are smack dab in the middle of all the current living. That's a good question. You said, did we respect his boundaries? Honestly, it was giving one of Themis. It wasn't giving one of Themis's it was. I don't know. It was weird because I was speaking generally, and then like I would make it personal about me. Like I would say, well, I say this, and I'm giving you this. I'm giving like an anecdotal example, but based off of me, not off of them. And so being that when this is a younger male, like early 20s male, and after this encounter, I found out that they were a fan of Kevin Samuels, but I had already been picking up on those vibes for a while. Thank you so much, Jazzy. I had already been picking up on those vibes for like over a year. So it was kind of like I was trying to have a pretty general conversation because I already knew his temperament about certain things. And I was trying to be more, like optimistic and say like, there's hope. You can do it, and you don't necessarily have to do it in a way that kills you. But I feel like because they were in that stance of I'm a man and you don't understand, and you're a fat black woman, and you're a single mother, and like he basically said that I was a failure. That's pretty much what he was saying. I was a failure. He said I was idle because he doesn't know what I do or anything like that. But he said a lot of like really mean-spirited things when I was just trying to have a general and uplifting conversation. Was it unsolicited? It wasn't. I wasn't trying to, like, I literally was about to go on my way. It's weird with that person. Like, I can be doing something and you know how you're going on about your business, but you get a sense from someone that they might want a little bit more of your attention. And so you go, oh, okay, I'll interact with you right now. And like I said, I thought it was a general conversation, but then they were kind of like making it personal towards. It's weird. It was like I'm saying, oh, you know, I was saying that I used to I would work really, really, really hard at certain things. And I recognized that I was almost killing myself to get certain things. And sometimes I got them, sometimes I didn't. But a lot of times when I would get those things that I was working really hard for, I would realize like I didn't even really want those things. You know what I mean? Like I was so engrossed in the getting of the thing that once I got the thing, I never taken time to really ask myself, did I even really want it? Or why was I thinking I wanted it? Or, you know, basically you have my book, so I kind of talk about it in my book, whereas I was going really, really hard and I had a really strong conviction and belief about certain things because I ultimately it was societal pressure and it was personal pressure that I was putting on myself that wasn't really real. You know what I mean? Like it was just internal issues that I was trying to overcome through sheer will, when really I needed to kind of slow down and just assess where these drives were coming from. But again, I didn't put it on him. I was just talking about me. And then that's when he kind of sees that you're depressed. And I'm just kind of how it went. So I was just like, okay, well, I'm going to disengage from this conversation right now. You don't have to worry about it. You know, I'm going to go back to doing what I was originally going to do. So, but that being said, I am the type of person that when I have interactions with people that don't go that well, I will ask myself, like, okay, did I do something? Was I trying to push an agenda? Was there something there that I was trying to get or take from him or whatever, like something that I was trying to affirm for myself through him? And in trying to, in, you know, assessing that, I'm just like, well, no, generally, like I said, I didn't need that conversation. I was under the impression that he wanted to converse with me. Now, could I have just talked about the what? But again, I didn't enter into the conversation to get deep. Like I was just speaking generally in the beginning of the conversation, and he kind of kept injecting certain things about me into the conversation, and then I would go and try to like clarify or correct, you know, what he was saying, because I'm like, that you're off base with that. You don't really understand me. But long story short, it brought to the forefront of my mind something that I've been wrestling with for way longer than, you know, me and him having that conversation for years, probably since I'd say since I was like 18, just since I was in a space where it was up to me to figure out how I wanted to do certain things, especially when it came to, you know, what type of mother I wanted to be and things like that. My family culture I recognized very early on, probably even before I had my daughter, my oldest daughter. My family culture is built around martyrdom, you know, ultimately suffering. And the reason I chose that thumbnail or that picture in that thumbnail, because that's when Eveline is introduced within the story. You know, she sings her song and then she sits down, and one of her workers, she's like, so we haven't found Dorothy yet, because she wants to find Dorothy and get the shoes. And he's like, oh, please, oh, beautiful one, we haven't had a lunch. Or she said, no, you haven't found Dorothy. All lunch hours are canceled. You know, basically like, oh, y'all not working hard enough. All lunch hours are canceled. And then the worker was like, oh, please, oh, beautiful one, we haven't had a lunch hour in however long. And she said, well, suffering is food for the soul. Now suffer. And then he got taken off somewhere with her powers or whatever. So that's why I chose that for the thumbnail. And I feel very strongly, it's been my experience that there's a lot of that mentality especially within some sects of the Black community, and especially among Black women, that suffering is food for the soul, or suffering is a virtue, or you can't really love without suffering. You know what I mean? Like you're not a mother unless you're a martyr type of thing. And even though it's not explicitly said, it is said, like even all the stuff that people joke about on TikTok when you see the thing when they're showing like a mother coming in the house with all the bags, but complaining about nobody helping them with the bags, or the subtle ways that we're kind of set up, and we set each other up to fail us, or to maintain this ego persona of someone who is doing it all by themselves, or doing it all for everyone and never getting anything back, and never getting equal to what they're giving, and that type of thing. And so, and I can remember from, like I said, very early on, once I had my daughter, especially my oldest daughter, rejecting that. And over time having to realize that even though I consciously was saying like I don't want to do that, all of the ways I was doing it anyway. You know what I mean? Because it was insidious, because it wasn't necessarily that I was doing it in the same way that the people that brought me up and took care of me did it. I was doing it in a different way, in that I was just like, well, I'm not necessarily going to work as hard as doing this things, but I am going to completely forego these other things that I might want, or I'm going to count them as frivolous or selfish or whatever, so I spoke about this before, where I was fracturing myself. So all week long, I just was a mother and nothing else. And there was no room for serious dating, and there was no room for, going to school or whatever. Like I was draining myself through all of the things that I felt obligated to do. You get what I'm saying? So I'm draining myself. I'm draining my own energy through having to, or feeling like I just have to be a mother and stuff. So I didn't have any more, self-sustaining energy to put towards going to school. And this isn't me blame. I'm not blaming. I'm taking full accountability. It was me that was thinking that way. But the mindset was, it's going to be too much work. It's going to be too much work. And of these two things, I have to do this. And so therefore it set me up to look at this thing with resentment, because it's keeping me from doing the things that I want, and also to not being fed by the things that I was doing. I hope that makes sense. And so, like I said, that conversation kind of put me back in that. I hadn't really left that space. I had actually been in, like, my feet had been in the pool of that space for the last couple of weeks. It's always in that space in one way, shape, or form or another, because, and anybody that's in the Level Up Single Mom Discord, I posted a video of Abraham talking about, getting more with less and stuff like that. So I'm in a space now within the last couple of years or so where I have recognized that no matter what I was doing physically, that my energy is off. My energy is off because I ultimately don't feel like the things, I still feel that separation between things that I want to do and things that I feel like I'm responsible to do. And so for me, there's always this underlying guilt or feeling of being frivolous or lackadaisical, because I'd rather do these things than these other things that I have to, you know what I mean? I haven't been able to energetically marry the concept that if it is meaningful to me, and it is meaningful in the world at large, which I'm seeing that this platform is meaningful in the world at large, it still feels like play to me. And even so, I just thought about it just now. I was talking to you guys last week about how, I got a playset of being a businesswoman. You get what I'm saying? So in my mind, because this is something that I want, but it's not, something that's guaranteed to pay me or guaranteed to facilitate my lifestyle or anything at this moment, it still feels like I'm just playing. And that's hard for me. And then that puts me, I'm a bad at procrastinating. I'm bad at I would say indecision, because like I said, my mind, I'll get inspiration and I'll say, okay, yeah, I want to do this thing and I have these ideas and it's really clear and it's really good. But then I always get to this point where it's like, but you should be doing this right now because this is what pays your bills, or you should be doing this right now because this is what, a mom needs to be thinking about right now. You know what I mean? There's always that block of just going with that flow of inspiration from the ether. So in that way, I know I am blocking my manifestations in a big way. But noticing that, like I said, I noticed that kind of a few years ago, I've been slowly but surely like just kind of shutting down kind of all that I was doing, because I recognize that I'm not going to be able to fix my energy by doing more. And so in that way, I know to outside people looking in, it may look like I'm not doing anything. You know what I mean? So I understood that. Hey, D Nice. I understood that and I understand it, and I don't take that to heart. It mind you, it wasn't even the stuff that the person was saying. It was the fact that I could tell that they were saying it to sting and to hurt. You know what I mean? Like there's a difference. I was talking to somebody about a conversation I was having with one of their family members, and they were like kind of apologizing because they had heard about it, but they weren't sure. Not the same person I'm talking about, somebody else, another conversation. And they were like kind of apologizing. I was saying, I thought about it. I was like, no, this person, we may not always agree, but I never feel judged by them. And I never feel like negative energy coming off of them. So I know the difference between just something where we disagree on things and someone like judging and trying to tear you down. And that's what that was. And that's how that felt. Deanne says, come on. A friend of mine and I have been talking about the unnecessary nature of the struggle for a while. It's become an idol for many of us. I mean, and the thing is, but it is generational. And we talk about generational curses. And like, it's been really blowing my mind within, I'll say, the last 2 or 3 years, the nature of a generational curse. Like we all talk about generational curses and we talk about, leveling up and things like that. But when you really get into the nitty gritty of what those are and what that means, it's stuff that is so run of the mill. It's stuff that you wouldn't even believe. Like, oh my God, this has been running me. This has been dragging me. This has had its foot on my neck and you didn't even know it. And like I said, I've been for years now, I'm talking since I was like 26, 25, 26. I have been listening to The Secret and doing all of this stuff and thinking that I'm putting myself in the space to do things differently, but not recognizing that even though I'm doing all the things, I'm doing the affirmations and I'm doing the giving myself permission to dream and all of that stuff, that still in the depths of my being, I believe that those things aren't responsible and that I can't be a good mother and pursue those things. And I can't be a responsible adult and pursue those things. Like in the way that one must pursue these things in order to achieve them and overcome them. You get what I'm saying? Like nobody, I won't say nobody, but 99.9999999% of people don't automatically get into that place of, stuff just flowing the way you want it to. There's always this process in which you kind of have to struggle and you may not get money and you may be, a little poor, a little destitute in the midst of pursuing your goal and dream. And I recognize that I think of anybody who's ever watched, was that The Dark Knight? Which one was it with Christian Bale and Bane? Whatever Dark Knight movie that was with Bane. And when he was talking about, I was born in the dark, I was bred in it, and they were talking about when he broke Bruce Wayne's back and put him in that pit thing that he was talking about he was born and bred in. And the doctor down there was talking to him about this child that was born in there, that was supposed to have been Bane, that was born in there, and it was the only person to ever escape because it was just like a big old open pit. It wasn't closed off, but it was such a treacherous climb to get to the top that a lot of people either died or they gave up. And so he asked, how did that little person, how did that child, how were they the only person to ever get out? What did they do differently? And the guy eventually told him, they didn't use a rope. They didn't use a rope. And so therefore, their life depended on it. They either was going to get out or they were going to die. And I can definitely recognize within me that I have not been willing to die. And I'm not saying I should, actually die or whatever, but I've never allowed myself to be in, I won't say I've never allowed myself. I think the ways that I've been in the most dire straits, I've seen, that change of just things just miraculously happen. But it's really complex because when I tell these stories, when I talk about these things, it's not that I'm trying to put blame on anybody else or even myself, but just me understanding the mechanics of how it works. I come from a family that's had a lot of different trauma, and everybody does. Everybody has things that happen to them. But the nature of the stuff that my different family members that have reared me and taken care of me and everything have been through, it was always implanted in me this aversion to struggle. Because I can say that's part of it's been both a blessing and kind of a hindrance for me, because I always say I was very privileged. I did not have that same struggle that a lot of people talk about coming from where I come from. I wasn't eating syrup sandwiches. I wasn't in the dark, in the cold. You know what I mean? I didn't have those types of, what's that movie? Precious situation. I was nurtured and loved and adored and doted on, and you know what I mean? Whereas in a lot of ways, people had really tough terrain to traverse within their own households where they laid their head. I did not. However, it wasn't until I got older and I was trying to do certain things, and I'm just like, why can't I get this? Why can't I do this? And I'm supposed to be so smart. Why isn't this working for me? That I realized that it's because I wasn't bred to do that. And then on the other hand, within my family, you have people who, it seems like all they know is struggle. And even when things are good and even when things are calm and, when you're trying to give back, they can't, like I said, that whole mother thing of I do it all myself. And when you're trying to do for them, you can never do enough. Or you don't do it right or whatever. So there's always a reason for them to have to do it themselves. You get what I'm saying? And it's like, as a teenager on up, I caught it and I kind of rejected it, but I didn't have a full understanding to be able to articulate. And like I said, do anything with that information outside of just I don't want that. You know what I mean? I was able to say, I don't want, but I wasn't equipped to be able to say, but I do want this, because I have no point of reference. So I don't have any examples of how to enjoy my life, of how to build my life around the things I actually want, as opposed to the things that I don't want. And so now here I am at 37, just having that clarity in, mind you, this is something that I knew. This is something that I sensed, but not something that I could articulate to be able to work with that knowledge and build a new paradigm until, recent. You get what I'm saying? And it's deep. It is so deep. But that being said, now that we have the foundation of where my head is at with it, I wanted to watch something with you. Tiff had posted this in the thing, but I watched it earlier, and that's why I say I love the way everything just aligns when your head is in a certain space and just keeps bringing you confirmation and bringing you stuff. Because like I said, over that incident happened last Friday, but every single day I've been getting something from somewhere that's kind of confirming and affirming to me that I meant well. I wasn't projecting. I wasn't trying to make him wrong or bad or anything like that. My heart was in the right place. And B, that I'm on the right path for me. Even if it's not for him, I am on the right path. And so today I found Kim Kim Foster posted on For Harriet. She was talking with, what's her name? CC Battle, Kristen CC Battle. And as they were talking, I just was like, oh my gosh, this is everything that I've been, kind of not wrestling with, but everything that I've been kind of working on, chewing on within these past couple days. And it's like the more they were talking, it was just hitting every single beat. And I was like, okay, we're watching this tonight. We're talking about that. And we're talking about how, even though they're just talking about, she's just talking about it from the lens of allowing yourself to have fun. I'm speaking of it as, I've been wired to suffer. But it's the same, you'll see it. It is the same thing. So I'm speaking of it from that wired to suffer mindset. She's speaking of it from that mindset of what it is you want to do, which is in her, she's saying frolic. So I'm not playing the whole thing. I'm going to kind of go from where I really was like, okay, this is definitely, I'm locked in here because this is definitely speaking to me. And we will get started. And please hit the like, share, and subscribe. And I'm going to go ahead and post those links again because, like I said, I was rushing. So I didn't put it in my bio. I always say I'll go back and put it in the bio. I never go back and put it in the bio. So I'm putting that in my brain right now to go back and put it in the bio when this is done. Okay.
One of the things that we do, and this is how systems of oppression keep going, is that we internally police ourselves, and then we begin to police other people. Yeah. Well, let's if we're in a job interview, right? And maybe you're an Instagram star, for your little cute little fits, and you come into my office to hire a job, and I'm like, oh no, you can't do the job because you were doing such and such and such. Right. And I think it's important what you're saying around interrogating to say that's not it for me, but if fan loves it, I'm here for it. Yeah. And being an observer of those thoughts, because, and this for me, why it goes back to personal choice and really for yourself prioritizing rest and play and understanding your capacity and joy, because if we don't do that internal work for ourselves, we're going to push on our shame, our boxes, our standards, our whatever onto other people. And that's how this fucked up shit keeps going.
You mentioned how...
So I love that she said that. Because that's really kind of what I was talking about. That's what I felt was happening. That's what I felt was happening to me in that conversation that they were saying. But aside from that, I love that she said internally. Because like I said, my struggle is and has been that even though closer to the surface, I'm like, okay, I recognize that I get to choose and I get to say what my priorities are and I get to make room and hold space for myself. That a little bit deeper, and way deeper, all the way to the core, there's still a part of me that's saying, this is unacceptable. This is not right. This is not responsible. You are failing. You are choosing to fail. You are being, like I said, I keep using the word frivolous because that's really what, for me, it feels like, and that is the word that I feel most resonates with the ideas that are the mechanisms within me that are saying yes, like I said, on the surface, I'm like, okay, I want this and it's okay for me to want this. And can't nobody tell me I can't want this. And can't nobody tell me that I don't deserve this. And, when I work hard and I'm smart and capable and all of that stuff. But deep inside, it's like, yeah, but you can't pay the bills, or you're still poor, sis. You still haven't, nobody knows who you are. Nobody cares what you're saying. It's still those things. And it's just kind of and this is a big one. You're this age. And so if you ain't got it by now, you need to just hang it up and just do what you got to do to survive. And that's a real thing. You know what I mean? I know it's definitely real for me. And I love the fact that she, and I'm a sucker for talking about exploring your mind. She's talking about examining those thoughts and examining those voices. And that's another reason why I feel it's so important to slow down, to stop altogether if you can, as much as you can. Because if you're in survival mode, if you're always moving, if you're always busy, if you're always checking all boxes on your list and things to do, when do you have the time to, like I would say, notice that A, this isn't working for me, B, I don't really want whatever this is I think I'm working for, or C, I'm in danger. I'm dying. I'm I'm not good. My health is fading. Like how many I worked in salons, for years, and it would be the same type of person that would come in with balding issues, with alopecia issues, and it would be that type A woman that's just maybe probably making all the money, right, and takes care of everybody, and nobody knows what to get her for Christmas, and nobody knows what to do for, because what do you do for the woman who has everything, or how do you please the woman that can't be pleased or whatever, but they bald. You know what I'm like? Their hair is falling. This is something that I would notice. It would always be the same type of thing, like, or it may not be exactly that type of type A woman. It may be the type of woman that is just like, I give it all to my kids. I give it all to my family. There's not, I don't worry about me. There's nothing left for me. And that's the way it should be. But their hair is falling out or gone. You know what I mean? And I noticed this. And these were, like I said, things that I was noticing as I was growing up. And I was just making that subconscious correlation between those things and saying, I don't really want, that's not what I want for myself. You know what I mean? Hey, Hope.
Showing your full
since I was 2 and 4, I would ask stories to my mom. And she's like, yeah, like we would go somewhere and we would get a whole bunch of free stuff because you would be going around.
Okay, so you guys, let me be clear. You didn't have any sound, because what I am trying not to do is have that echo. So when you're saying when I muted myself, there was no sound. I think Denise is confirming that. Okay. All right. So I'll go back a little bit. I'll leave my sound on, and then we'll go from there.
Or refuse to acknowledge, or just like,
That's how this fucked up shit keeps going.
You mentioned how showing your full self has helped other people discover things about themselves. I get that feedback as well. Do you feel like by veering more into being freer, showing more of yourself, not self-policing and self-censoring, that you unlocked new things about yourself that old CC never knew, or refused to acknowledge, or just like has just sprung up?
You know what's so funny about this? I think that we all know who the hell we are. We're just socialized out of that knowing. Because when I think of the highest version of myself, it's actually like the 4-year-old, 2-year-old version of myself. Like when I ask my mom and I look at little pictures of myself, there are pictures of me on top of the picnic tables dancing, pointing at people, telling people to dance. Like since I was 2 and 4, I would ask stories to my mom. And she's like, yeah, like we would go somewhere and we would get a whole bunch of free stuff because you would be going around talking to people about their life and how they're great and they should be. This is 2 and 4-year-old version of me, right? So no, I think I'm just remembering. I'm remembering. You do like that. You didn't like that. It's a process, and this for me is why rest. It's frolicking is not just play. It's also rest. When you pause enough and you sit with yourself, you can remember it's not really about learning. It's really about, am I tuned in enough? And am I in a place of, is my nervous system calm enough for me to remember what I like and what I don't like?
Oh my God, that, like, full stop, period, exclamation point. And for those of you who have read the book, I wrote about how with my oldest daughter's father, like when I had my first daughter, I felt like I completely lost myself. And then when I had my youngest daughter, when I started dealing with my youngest daughter's father, because I knew him from high school before I became a mother, I felt like that helped kind of connect me back to the person that I was prior to, I call it the fall. And that helped me so much to prepare my mind for having my second daughter and mothering from a place of self-love and self-appreciation, as opposed to when I got pregnant with my oldest daughter. I just was like, I have ruined myself. I'm not what I was. I'm not as good as I was or could have been, and like she said, remembering and reconnecting with the essence of myself and who I am at my core. And that's so real, because all of the things, when I even think of all the things I'm talking about, where all that pressure, and all of that feelings of failure and of not being good enough and not ever being able to give enough, that comes from the idea of growing up. And because that's what adults do, it's responsible. You know what I mean? So it's not from a place of authenticity where you're just like, oh yeah, this is what I am. Well, this is what I want, and this is who I am, and this is what is meaningful to me. It's just like, oh, this is just what we have to do. And that's just the way it is, and there's nothing you can do about it. Even when I think about when I first got pregnant and I wound up telling my grandparents that I was pregnant. And I remember like my grandfather saying to me, oh, well, your life is over. And if you knew, their story of how they got together and became a family, you would understand that was where they came. If you knew, their background of what it was for them to be children and the families they were, that was a generational, that was a generational curse. You get what I'm saying? I feel bad saying it like that, but it was something that was passed down generationally, this idea that, oh, once you have a child, you can't be yourself. Once you have a child, you can't dream. Once you have a child, you can't put any effort towards things that aren't about survival, and that those things are mutually exclusive, that there's no way to meet the requirements of being a parent and a good citizen and a good husband or wife or father or mother or whatever, and meet your own needs. There's no room for your own needs, and you forget, or you think you forget, you suppress. And in that suppression, then comes the resentment, then comes the bitterness, then comes the fear-based reactionary parenting and behavior and relating to other people. And this was passed down for at least 3 generations by the time it got to me. You get what I'm saying? And being able to sit back and look at that and understand that this isn't just a deficiency in myself. This was a seed that was planted, and it's up to me to uproot it. And it's up to me, and it's not going to be met with applause the way you would think if you're setting out to break generational curses. You would think everybody, yes, go do it for us. But you're getting met with projection. You're getting met with judgment. You're getting met with passive aggression. You're getting met with doubtful energy. You're getting met with, when you're willing to take certain risks or things that seem risky from, the vantage point of the family or whatever, they're not necessarily survival based decisions. They're more so steps in the direction of actually living and being willing to work hard, but work hard to go in a different direction towards something you really, really want. Because there's this idea that it's normal to sacrifice when you're sacrificing for others, or it's normal to sacrifice for the good of many, but it's never okay to sacrifice for something that is coded as selfish. So something that you really, really want that you don't necessarily, you can't necessarily paint as, I won't say you can't paint it as good for everyone involved, but things that, like I said, aren't the survival mode way to go. So for instance, when I was in my, early to mid 20s and stuff like that, there were times where I just was like, look, I'm not making enough money. I was trying to just sign up to the local, it's called PHA, the local housing authority and stuff like that. But I'm technically, now I signed up for them lists and stuff when my oldest was a baby. She's 18 now. I'm still on them lists and they moved in another, you know what I mean? Technically, I'm still on those lists because I didn't call them to, well, some I probably fell off because I didn't renew it or whatever. But my point is that at one point I just was like, I'm willing to go into a shelter. I knew people that had been in shelters and stuff like that because I'm just like, if nothing, it'll give me a leg up. You know what I mean? Because it cost them. I didn't have enough money to be qualified for renting, and I didn't have no savings enough to qualify for buying a house. But I'm just like, I want my own space. I have children. I want to be able to live on my own, and this and that and the other. And I remember my family members pretty much outright saying that if you do that, you're endangering your children and you're being selfish. You know what I mean? And because like I said, I didn't live the same kind of lifestyle as a lot of people tout being the typical lifestyle of people coming from where I come from or places like where I come from. So I was scared and I was young and I wanted to be respectful and I wanted to, listen to those older and wiser than me. But it wasn't until years later when you're having conversations about these types of things and people will talk you out of stuff. And then later on you talk to them and they're just like, oh, well, you should have did this, or, it's like you realize that they didn't know what they was talking. You know what I mean? They didn't know what they were talking about, and they were speaking out of fear, or maybe even some other things. You know what I mean? And again, this isn't me putting blame on anybody. My decisions have been my decisions, but like I said, it's about really being able to look at where the thought processes come from and the influences that you've had in your life, and the standards and the norms that have made up the framework with which you make your decisions and decide what's good and what's bad and what's righteous and what's wicked and what's responsible and what's frivolous, and recognizing that some of these things are inaccurate based off of your internal compass system.
Fun story. Last relationship, when that ended and I was spinning around my apartment and I looked at myself and I was like, when was the last time you danced? I used to dance professionally. The people who know me, if they would have known there was an extended amount of time where I wasn't doing a cartwheel or dancing somewhere, people would be like, there's something wrong with you. And it's not in this process. I'm just like, oh yeah, you do like that. Oh yeah, you don't like that. Oh yeah, you should do more of that. And it's just, I'm observing my remembering more intentionally. And I think a lot of us do that. I think a lot of us have points of, oh yeah, I forgot, but we just keep going. Like, oh yeah, I forgot I like to double dutch. Oh, I'm too old for that. Like, we self-police ourselves out of our frolic all the time.
Oh my goodness, yes. This is making me think about why I love being an aunt so much.
Okay, tell me.
Anybody who follows me knows that I'm committed to being the greatest aunt in the world. And that shocked me because I never liked kids and I don't want to have kids. But there is something so freeing about being with my nieces and their exuberance about experiencing life and taking in all of these new ideas and new activities and just being completely immersed in it, just like throwing themselves in it head on. That unlocks in me the freedom to like, yes, like we're in it, like let's have fun, let's do it. Who cares about being cute? Like let's just, play and roll around on the floor. And people who know me know like you're doing what? Like you're not that. And I'm like, but I am that. Like,
Come on.
and so, yes, it has connected me to, I know it's cliche to be like inner child, but like a freedom, a carefreeness, and a shamelessness that I'm not sure without being connected to like two little girls who like don't have all of this baggage. I'm not sure I would have been able to tap into that by myself.
So the reason I stopped that there is because what she just said was so real for me as a mother. Again, there's always a parallel with me between the mother I was with my oldest daughter and the mother I was with my youngest daughter. With my oldest daughter, there were a lot of norms and stuff that I just rejected in general because that wasn't how I was as a child, like in terms of always having to have like name brand things and stuff like that. That's not how I grew up. And I wound up finding a workaround where when we was always cute, I'm always be cute, but not relying as heavily as you see in the hood people do on having the name brand clothes or whatever like that. I love being an auntie now too. I'm an auntie. Like I have one niece and oh my God, that was like the best gift of my life. Sorry, girls. But I love that. But I'll say not feeling free at the time when it was just me and my oldest daughter. I was not allowing of her childishness. And at the time, there was this conscious, I felt I had a lot of guilt around it. So it was like subconscious, but also kind of conscious. Sometimes I would see it and I would feel so bad that I was being so mean or just so short or whatever like that. But ultimately, it was just kind of a thing of like, nobody told me the realities of life. And I would rather the truth about life than to be hurt in the way I was in finding out that it was all a lie. That's really where it came from. But at the same time, there was a part of me that was just like, this is wrong. And you're being mean to her. But I didn't know any way around it because it was just a bunch of stuff that, like I said, in my mind, I had no time to dive in and question it and challenge it and correct it, because that would have required me challenging my whole entire life, challenging all the people around me, challenging, my entire world up to that point. And I just didn't have the bandwidth to be able to do it. I was trying to survive. She says, was an aunt since 11, and my little brother was 8. I'm kind of confused. I'm guessing you had an older brother. My nephew's a badass, but I'm not close to my sister. Oh, your sister had a baby. Okay. Got you. I'm not close to my sister. Yeah, my brother had a baby. She's 6 now, and she's the funniest little thing. She's auntie, but she's a shifty one. You gotta watch it, but I still love her. She's so pretty. Her and my daughter just play so. I wouldn't say they play nice together, but she be getting on my daughter's nerves. They be fussing, but then most of the time they're really cute to see playing together, and it's really nice. And my youngest daughter is such a good big cousin in that she's trying to teach her things and show her things and stuff like that. But sometimes she gets a little bossy. So you love your niece, and the best part about nieces and nephews and stuff is that they go home. But yeah, she said my sister is like 44. Oh, okay. And your nephew is 16, almost 16. Got it. Christina Bell. Hi, Christina. She said, I'm 24. My niece is 16. She thinks I'm crazy. Listen. Yeah, you got to have, because mind you, my aunt is 11 years older than me. And so, like, it was kind of like a bit older sister, younger sister dynamic. And definitely when I was like in my adolescence, there was this kind of like a rivalry type of thing. And not a rival. It was weird because I took her place because my grandparents were. So I basically took her place as the baby. I usurped her as the baby. And so it was weird for me because in some ways I was just kind of like, what is all of this, felt like hostility and stuff like that. But then as we got older and like then honestly, I feel like it subsided when I had my daughter. When I had my daughter, I think that's when she kind of was like, we're the same now. And I, not, she always took care of me. She always took care of me. She always did things for me. She, fought over me. She fought for me. You know what I mean? Like but like I said, there's always that stuff of under the surface that people didn't, you just don't really look into because you have no point of reference. How would you even know? You're just living, right? Like there's nothing there. But let me get back to the video.
It's a word right there. And I think that speaks to what you were talking about of how you showing up as your full self inspires someone else. And me showing up as my full self, it reminds you, it pushes you into remembering. Yeah. Because most of the things that we do is because of socialization. And we're not even aware of it. The way we dress, the way we talk, the way we eat. Someone taught us that.
Shout out to Erica De Niro TV, socialization.
It may not even be what we like. And have we given ourselves permission, the time to be, to rest, to play, to see, to figure it out? Like, to your point, if you ask people, I have a homie, this is so funny how life changes. He's traveled way more than me. You would have never thought, okay? Our lives are so similar, but we were the wildest when we were little kids, okay? I used to make him and my other childhood best friend climb on the top of houses and play Barbie dolls. I used to make them climb up the top of the trees with me. I've always loved being outside. If you asked me 5 years ago, when was the last time you camped, CC? When was the last time you went for a walk outside, CC? Well, I don't like to walk. Who told you that? You don't? You don't like to be outside? I love being outside. Like, where did this come from? And sometimes we can't pinpoint it because sometimes it's a rude teacher or a bully in our house or whatever, or things that we saw on TV, or the different ways we saw people being reprimanded, even outside of us, that's not acceptable. We've been socialized in dropping pieces of our humanity. And that's why for me, frolic culture is like my own personal mandate and an invitation, particularly to Black women. Find it. You deserve it. Like it literally is our birthright to frolic. Our ancestors did all this shit. Black women, our ancestors did everything required if work was required. It is our birthright to reclaim all the ways that we love to be.
I love that she was saying, like, especially as Black women, because, and that's what we talk about so much here, is how the othering of Black women. It's like, you're not, there's so many labels that are put onto Black women. So it's like you are, and not just Black women in general, but it's like you go from just being a woman. And that's how I used to say, like, I'm a mother Monday to Friday, but I'm a woman on the weekends. Like, there's a whole different sense of being that comes from saying I'm a woman. When you are a woman, you're entitled to love. You're entitled to care. You're entitled to romance. You're entitled to sex. You know what I mean? You're entitled to femininity. Whereas when you are a mother, there's so much work. You're burdened with so much work. You know what I mean? There's so many things that you can't say, even in marriages and stuff like that. You're not supposed, if you're a good mother, if you're a proper mother, you're not supposed to say, hey, he's supposed to be doing it. You're supposed to be doing those things. You're supposed to be cooking and cleaning and nurturing and sewing the socks and changing the baby and feeding the husband. And, there's so many other, with all these different labels that are given to women, there's so much that comes with that where is the time to just be a person, to just be an individual, to just be insert name here. And like I said, it's normalized, and it feels like a cage. For me, it felt like a cage. And there was so much resentment, and there was so much devastation. I was devastated that I felt like my life was over at 18. And mind you, but again, that was what was spoken into me. And I know, my grandfather didn't mean it that way, but that was his hurt, because that's how he felt, because he was a teenage parent. Him and my grandma, I believe they were married and had a son already when they went to their senior prom. You know what I mean? So how am I supposed to transcend this image of what life is and what parenthood is, and what to expect out of life from here on out, if this is what was given to me as my birthright? Like, this is what was given to me. But thank goodness we're here in this day, in this time, when there's such a mass awakening of understanding that these type of problems are just, they weren't married at prom, they really went to prom already married. they went to prom already married. So they were already husband and wife in their prom pictures. They didn't get married at the prom. But I'm saying they were teen parents, and they got married. It wasn't a shotgun wedding, from what I understand. Like, they made the choice to do so because they thought that was the right thing to do. But clearly, like I said, if I'm getting these messages, and that's another, I also wound up realizing within the last couple of years that I got a lot of negative subliminal messaging about marriage itself too, from my married grandparents. They were married, so I come from a two-parent household, but it wasn't necessarily, pushing marriage. Yeah, so just that understanding of how, as a Black woman, we soak in all of this messaging about of this idea of not being able to just be a woman and revel in the benefits of that.
Okay, so now I'm thinking about, how has this changed your friendships?
Oh, that's such a great question. If you would have asked me this question maybe 6 months ago, I would have started to cry, in not a good way. It has deepened some of my friendships, like, deeply, because either I've inspired their journey, or they've inspired my journey, or we've decided to do this journey together. I literally have a group text of people that I'm like, yo, what's our frolic plan for the week? Like, what y'all doing? How y'all prioritizing yourself? Which has been a beautiful thing. But it also has distanced me from people that I was once very close with, because when you make a commitment to prioritize your rest and play, that means that you can't overextend in the same way. And as someone who is a recovering people pleaser, who doesn't present like a people pleaser, but I am, as someone who love was modeled from me, particularly from my mother, as you give at the expense of yourself, I had to stop that. To have the capacity to rest, to have the energy to play, I had to stop showing up at the expense of myself in certain relationships. I had to hold boundaries in some of my relationships. I had to say, like, you don't actually feel good. I don't feel restful, easeful, playful with you, actually. So it's been tough. I'm not going to lie to you. So it's been beautiful. I'm holding space for both, and, it's been beautiful and deepened and recommitted most of my relationships. But there have been some that we're not in community right now. And I'm hopeful that, of course, time and things will circle back, but I'm okay. I'm well with that.
Yeah.
All of that, in terms of relationships, friendships, and things like that. And also that part, I want to talk first about that part where she said, recognizing that you're not feeling good in commune with talking with certain people and relating with certain people and just being around certain people, and really understanding that how many of us are kind of trapped or feel trapped in relationship. And I'm not talking just about romantic relationship, but feeling like you have to interact with certain people because of the children. You know what I mean? It can be with your baby father. It can be with his girlfriend or boyfriend. That trap, I know I was definitely, when it came to like my baby father and stuff to do with him, in that idea of, I don't want to be perceived as bitter, so involving myself in conversations and situations and situationships and stuff like that I really probably wouldn't have had I felt like I had a choice, had I felt like I had other options. But just feeling like, oh, well, this is how you be a mature co-parent and blah 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 blah, because when not even taking into account that this is an abusive person, like this is a person who, no matter what little bit of something, little bit of clout or influence or whatever you give him, they're going to overstep their bounds. You know what I mean? So there's no vetting this person. There's no, way of kind of cutting off their ability to violate, because they're going to violate no matter what. So if you tell them don't come here, don't come past here, they're going to come here. If you tell them don't come past here, they're going to come past here. If you tell them don't come past here, they're going to come past here, because it's not about what they actually want. It's about they want whatever is more than what you're willing to give. You get what I'm saying? And you have a child with this person and you're feeling like, oh, I can't not interact with this person because, oh, I have a child. Oh, do it for the child and they deserve their father. And meanwhile, like I said, it's one thing if they are actually doing for the child. But really, and let's think about this. How many people who behave like that with the mother are actually doing right by the child? Like whose priority is actually the child? Because the parents, if you think about it, the parents that are really about taking care of their child don't have time to be picking with the other parent. You get what I'm saying? But because you're trying to be a good parent and a proper parent and a good citizen and all of that other stuff, you're still holding yourself to these high. Again, you're taking on all the burden of doing it, even though you're positioned to be exploited or abused or whatever.
It's so fascinating how we can become comfortable in our anxieties, comfortable feeling anxious around people. I haven't necessarily felt that in friendships, but I've definitely dated people where I felt like every time I see this person, every time we're together, every time we talk, like I am anxious. Like I do not feel good, but why am I still here? Why are we still showing up that way? And it's like, am I thinking it's going to get better, or am I thinking they're going to make a change? And then of course you have to talk to my therapist about it, and she's like, it's not a match.
I'm sorry. I don't know why I apologize for that, but I always apologize, even though you guys are here to get my commentary. But what she said about like not feeling anxious around people, and that was my experience, with my child's father. And I wanted to emphasize too that also people that are around that person, or even your own family, being put in that position where you're having that reaction to them, you're having that anxiety. Because my family was more so like, don't mess with him. Like just don't take your child around him or nothing like that. But I had personal issues with that because of how things were like handled with me and my parents and stuff like that. But when his family, just being around people who, instead of going, oh, you need a certain type of support because you're clearly having PTSD or whatever like that, it was more so, what's wrong with you? And you acting crazy and you're acting weird and you're not acting, like kind of it being posed as if there's something wrong with you. You are the discord in the situation, especially when it came to like his family. Like, oh, you're acting weird, or you're more like you're overreacting type of thing. Why are you so on edge? Why are you so snippy? Why are you so whatever? And it took me forever to understand that this is a freaking trauma response. Like this is my body saying, no, bitch, get away from him. Red alert, bang, bang, bang. You know what I mean? But me overpowering that and saying, well, no, for the children and for the child and don't want to be bitter and all that other stuff. So going against your intuition to try to fit the script.
Like it's obviously not like make a different choice. It's like, you're right, it's not. Okay, hey, you got it. And I think yes, for friends, for lovers, even sometimes for family members, like it's not a match. So we're gonna have to make a different choice for self-preservation. Sure.
Yeah. And also I just had that experience where
Petty white.
Not sometimes. My optimism can become delusion in the sense where I rationalize myself out of knowing. So there was someone that I dated recently, and I saw him recently in the same thing. I felt my body like tense up. And instead of rationalizing myself out of that, I made a note in my phone. I'm like, remember how you feel. So the next time when this person call you, you remember that this is not easeful, okay? This is not restful, okay? And no amount of play is worth the recruit time it's going to take you to get back to homeostasis from being on this like anxious state for so long. So all of that. And I also think it's important for us to really take inventory again of the things that inhibit our ability to rest and inhibit our ability to play. And the scary thing, a lot of the times it's ourselves. Again, it's a lot of internal policing from what we've, taken in from systems of oppression. But it's a lot of times the people that are close to us. And that's the scary thing to say, hey, I can't actually show up for you like this. Or prime example, I have someone in my life that I deeply love, but their presence is draining to me. It helped me realize that people around me, because I have a lot of energy and I'm usually happy, actually are leeches. It's not their intention, but they're coming around me to get a fill up, to get that, that little blah, blah. And then I'm left with nothing. It's not their intention, but that's the reality of the situation. So now it's not saying that I don't love them or they're harmful necessarily, but I'm not going to spend one-on-one time with you anymore. Because that's when we're going to do something where the intention is outward. So you can get your energy from a plethora of things and not just me. When we take real inventory on like, what are the things that are getting in the way of my frolic? It's not saying that you got to cut everybody off, but if you listen, you have the opportunity to kind of course correct and shift a little things.
Definitely a meaningful part for me, because like recently, like I said, this has been an ongoing rumination for me, this subject, and recognizing that like she said, it's nobody's fault and it's not anybody's necessarily their intention, but paying attention to my body, paying attention to how I can't ever quite fully recoup, and the people that I spend the most time around, and the situations that I'm in most of the time and stuff like that, and really recognizing, and it was like, it wasn't shocking because I had an idea. It's like I'm gonna use the Shrek. It's like an onion. You know what I mean? There's so many layers. It goes deeper. You may think, oh, I got it, but you don't realize you got the top layer of like a billion layers of this same aspect of the thing. You know what I mean? And understanding that, even like I said, even if it's not someone who is purposefully being manipulative, and maybe even that the person that did you the dirtiest wasn't necessarily purposefully being manipulative, then maybe that's just their resonant frequency is just a drain on your resonant frequency. You know what I mean? But being able to pinpoint that even in these relationships that are filled with love and seeming positivity and reciprocity, or even, them kind of caring for you in some kind of ways, there are other aspects of it that are draining you. And so that's why you don't have the energy you need to put into your manifestations. Like I said, you're doing all the things, but it's not hitting right. It's not coming to fruition. It's, you know what I mean? And you're still getting burnt out, and you're still feeling that pressure, and you're not producing. And maybe you took a little bit of a gamble because you said, oh, well, I'm going to focus on this instead of doing this, or, whatever. I'm going to not work as hard at my day job, or whatever it is. I'm going to go to part-time instead of full-time, or whatever. And so you were banking on you're going to make more money or something like that. And then you don't. And now you're sad, and now you kind of have to go back to that life or that lifestyle you didn't really want in the first place. You know what I mean? Like the ways that you are it's so normalized. Like she said, your nervous system. What was I doing? There was something that was going on that recently, within the last couple months. And I've been like, when I say I've been systemically withdrawing from the drains of my energy over the last couple years, it was a point where I had to be in a position or a situation that used to be so familiar to me. And I had to do it. And I liken it to like the Princess and the Pea. I could not take, like, I physically got ill. my body physically was just like, no, almost to the point of passing out, because I just wasn't attuned to that anymore. I wasn't tempered for it. But there's so many, but when I looked at the situation, I'm just like, yo, that used to be my like day-to-day reality. It wasn't even like something, no, every now and then I went through it. I used to live in that and recognizing like, yo, I really can't. Like, I can't. I physically can't. And being proud of it. Like being straight up proud. Like, I'm glad that I'm so sensitive. And then people say, oh, they don't make them like they used to, and people are snowflakes and this. And I want to be a delicate snow. I want to be a flower and a snowflake and just a little stardust sprite. You know what I mean? The most delicate things you can think. I want to be that, because when I was being that hard rock, pressure makes diamond type of thing, it wasn't working for me. It wasn't working for me.
Do you think that getting older, and not that I'm calling you old, I'm getting older too, that getting older makes you reassess how you're spending your time, where you're putting your energy? I think that sometimes I look back on like 16-year-old Kimberly, because when you're dating people, you want to go through the Facebook photos and like, if this was me in high school and whatever. And I look back on 16 and 17-year-old Kimberly, and I'm like, that was yesterday. like this is crazy. And it makes me think, oh, okay, well, I need to be so intentional. Like, if that was yesterday, then 60 is going to be tomorrow. And so I need to be so intentional about where I'm putting my energy.
I think age thing, I feel like it's more of an awareness thing, an experience thing, which can definitely come with age. For me, it's been a journey of self-love more so than age, because I can think about the times where I really valued myself and I was just as intentional, and the times where I was looking for validation outside myself and I was all willy-nilly. So, for me, it's, and I'm someone who is extremely cerebral. I process everything here. It's been a process of intentional connecting my mind and my body and sitting in things, to be radically honest with myself, to say, you don't deserve this shit.
Yeah.
And then saying that over and over and over and actually believing it, that then pushes me to say, I understand you love them, you want to show up for them, but is it worth the 4 days of recouping that you're going to have to do emotionally from after spending this time with them? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think that mind-body thing is so it. When was it? Maybe a week or two ago, a couple of weeks ago, I got a tarot reading. And one thing that she was saying to me is like, you're so cerebral, you're thinking all the time, you don't want to make the wrong choice. But what's happening in your soul? Like, what's happening in your solar plexus? Like, what's happening, like your body, we need to be paying more attention to those visceral reactions, like those natural instincts, instead of trying to reason yourself out of them. Like, right? Like, I get ya. I understand what you're saying. And yes, I do think every single thing through. But I think it's hard when you have been taught to distrust your body, to distrust your natural instincts. Yeah.
And my question, because I talk to myself in reflection question, is who taught you that?
Yeah.
And who does that serve? And I think it's really powerful that you're on a twerking journey, because your solar plexus and your sacral chakra, it's all in there. And I will be really fascinated to see, as your twerk gets more mean, how queer you feel. I'm very serious, because when we think about the things that have been socially demonized, or, they're a faux pas, I find are actually tools to our liberation. When I twerk, when I'm popping, when I'm doing my little whatever, I actually feel myself.
Yeah.
And who does it serve to really feel myself? It serves me. And I think that's the power of play.
That just stood out to me, and I didn't catch it the first time I heard it, but when she was talking about like, who does it serve? It serves me. It the energy that it brings. I've always, like, when twerking first became like this major thing where people actually use the word twerk, I remember, mind you, around the same time, there was like a bunch of stuff coming out about Sarah Bartman. For any of those who don't know who Sarah Bartman is, she was a slave, and then was she a slave at one point? I think she was a slave, and then she was like semi-emancipated, but she was basically used as a sideshow attraction for her big bump, her lady lumps. And I remember watching like a movie about her or a documentary. It was a bunch of stuff going on. And I remember saying like, me and my daughters are never going to twerk. Right. And then not too long after that, like, I don't remember what it was, but I saw like twerking and I started, when I went down to do it, the Hottentot Venus, when I was doing it, I recognized the energy of it is rooted in pure joy and just pleasure, and not pleasure for those viewing. I mean, it can be pleasurable for those viewing too. And I'm not even talking about in a sexual way. It's just such an energy emanating when you see groups of women. And we talked about this, I don't know how many weeks ago, when I was saying like the men, when they talk about women saying yes and twerking and all that other stuff, I truly, honestly feel it's because they're seeing pure, unadulterated, self-based joy in women. When women are twerking and stuff, some women are doing it, to be seen or whatever. But most of the time, that yes and all that other stuff, when you hear yes, I feel like that's like a dog whistle for men, because they see women enjoying themselves just for the sake, just for the fuck of it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just enjoying myself. This has nothing to do with you. I'm happy. I'm free. And for whatever reason, these men can't take it. And so her saying that, I just really wanted to kind of highlight that. And that might be something for you to consider moving forward when you're seeing twerking and you're seeing like men reacting to, and not just the twerking. I feel like they go in tandem, the twerking and the yes. It's about women owning their own pleasure within themselves. And it has nothing to do with men. It has nothing to do with serving men. It has nothing to do with the male gaze. It's all about themselves and their sisters.
I say play is the practice of abundance. It's not there, you can't really whatever, but it's an opportunity to try it on. And I think that we can find some of those things if we just allow ourselves to explore more. And how, like, just saying with yourself. And for me, dance is what it is, but I also find the stillness the best connection of mind and body. So it's like, when I have a thought, I'm like, okay, I keep that thought, and I'm like, well, where do you feel this thought? And I know that sounds really woo-woo, but sometimes I feel my thoughts in my gut. I feel it in my stomach, like, this nigga ain't shit. That usually I feel that in my core, okay? Sometimes the thought is in my throat, and I'm like, you're a little choked up about this. Yeah. Sometimes I feel it in my shoulders. So it's not saying that don't discredit the thought, but I ask myself, where are you feeling this? And sit with that.
I love she said that, because that's something I would do with my daughter. Like, I speak about how I would tell my daughter, I would make my oldest daughter sit down and really like feel her feelings. And that would be one of the first things I would ask her. Where are you feeling? Are you feeling anything in your body with whatever thought it is? Where are you feeling it at? I know for me, learning the chakras was like a boom. It really helped me to be able to decode. It's decoding your subconscious and your intuition, because the different chakras are centers for different things. And like having, because I have like sometimes a tooth pain and stuff like that, when it's something I need, or throat pain, when it's something you need to say, you know what I mean? So if you're having ailments in specific places, if you learn about the chakras, I bet you you'll realize that it has something to do with some kind of blocked energy that you're not expressing or expelling. You know what I mean? And when she talks about the sacral chakra and the twerking, my sacral chakra is stiff. Okay, I can't twerk. I can bear. I'm a hinge. You know what I mean? I don't have. There's no wiggle. There's no fluidness in that area, and I have a lot of stuff to do with that area, with pleasure, with sex. I have a lot of issues in this, but it's good to understand that stuff and know it, because you know where to go to work on your stuff.
Yeah, I think that is so it. And even giving myself time and space to be bored. I think that I'm addicted to screens and laptop, and just constant interaction, constant stimulation, and being more intentional about, let's just sit, okay? Let's just sit. Even I went to the pool the other day, and I was like, oh, I can't forget my phone, like, gotta, and it's actually no, let's just sit and be outside. And honestly, at first 15 minutes, I was like, what am I going to do? Like, this sucks so bad. And then you sink into it, and I'm thinking about things and thinking about the future and coming up with ideas. And it's that overstimulation is actually, we think that it is improving and like teaching us and showing us, but it's actually like dampening your ability to like process and analyze.
Yeah, and to remember.
Yeah.
I realized I was always looking for a book, reading an article to affirm shit that I already knew. Like, girl, if you just sit with yourself for a second, you could, And it's to your point of ideas or whatever, you already knew. Yeah. Rest allows us to remember. And our society, specifically, because we know this heteropatriarchy, all the shit, we can name them, tells us that we are less than. And the only way to be better is outside of us, is outside of our being. So we do have to embrace it. We just got to sit with the shit.
You don't got a man. You single. Fit, feminine, friendly. All this other stuff. All of the things that are pointed towards eliciting a certain type of response from men.
I know now my things now, like my mama. I never thought I was gonna be like a 72-year-old lady. I go for hour walks, girl. And in that walk, I listen to Beyonce, of course. Like, that's like mine. But just I can't scroll as I'm walking when you're power walking with your arms, You can't really do much. And it allows me to just cleanse, to sort sometimes. I find sometimes my brain latches onto something that I thought I was really upset about, and I'm able to see it from different angles and move on in a walk. And imagine how much of our freedom we could find if we just set our ass down.
Yeah. And I also think, I always have to acknowledge that I feel incredibly privileged to be able to make the choice to just sit and think whenever, because we do have to have some breathing room. But
I didn't know if you were still here, Deanne. I thought of you when she said that.
For people who can literally afford it, who literally have time and space to be able to just sit and think, I think the past month it really has improved my not even just life, like mental health, but like even my physical health. Like I feel, I don't know, just more lighter, more unburdened, clearer. And I'm like, wow, like there are people who literally don't even have 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 20 minutes to just like sit with themselves.
Agreed. I think a lot about, affirm that.
When she said that, I remember when she said that earlier, and I was thinking to myself too. And that, for me, like I said, having that fear and kind of having different times in my life, people kind of come at me just basically saying like, you're not doing enough, when my instinct was to do less, because I'm like, there's something here I need to figure out, but always feeling that self-consciousness of why, like she was saying, people not having 5 minutes to rest and stuff like that. I use the word privilege so much because it's amazing to me now when I look at certain aspects of my life and things that I have that aren't necessarily money, that aren't material things, but I'm like, wow, I am so privileged to have made time and to have had the instinct and the will to carve out time to sit, to think and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like stuff that I see people cannot do. They literally cannot not be doing something. They literally cannot give themselves the space to say, I'm not answering my phone between these hours. I'm going to put my phone on vibrate. I'm going to not answer the calls of this person because I know they ain't doing nothing but wasting my time. You know what I mean? Like there's so many things that I do inherently that I'm just like, yeah, that's just not going to fly with me, that a lot of people don't. Now, mind you, they may have things that I don't have either. I'm not trying to say like I'm above anyone else, but recognizing the abundance in disconnecting and just creating stillness and quiet and space, holding space for myself to do that energetic work that, like I said, if you give into that pressure of always having to be busy, of always having to account for the time that you're spending on earth with some kind of, oh, I'm working, or I'm doing this, or I'm doing that, or I'm doing something for my kids. But I can recognize that even in me not doing things internally, I still feel that pressure. And so even when I'm not necessarily doing anything, I'm still not resting because I feel guilty. You know what I mean? Because of that, oh, I should be doing something, and my friends are always doing this and that. I compare myself a lot, and I know that's bad, but just not like, never really to better myself. Always like, oh, I could be better in this way. I have this friend that's always giving, and I have this friend that's always doing something. I have this friend that's always killing herself financially and every other way to do for her kids. All these different things that I don't do. And I feel like I'm a bad mom, even though I see the toll that it's taking.
Definitely have privilege to do it. There's two pieces that my mind went to. Is some of us who have the privilege to sit don't give ourselves permission to do that.
Yeah.
So just going to name that. And I find that when we don't give ourselves, people who have privilege give themselves permission to slow down, we then hold people to the same busy standard, which inhibits less privileged people from slowing down. If you have a boss that takes a month vacation and they be like, don't fucking call me, I'm dead, y'all good, it gives you permission to take your vacation and say, I'm dead. Yeah. And that's the part I don't, when we talk about culture, the culture that we're creating, and how I believe like our culture is a product of our individual choices, and then how they magnify and compound and all of these things, is if Cece doesn't value and understand the necessity of rest, the necessity of play, then everybody around me is going to know that that's a standard. And depending on my positionality, my privilege, whatever, how does that impact those around me?
Yeah, this is really making me think. I am in a very high product.
So that goes back to what I was talking about pretty much in the beginning of me growing up in a culture of, oh no, mommies have to be doing something all the time and nothing for her, never for her. You know what I mean? That understanding that this is what it is to be a mommy. This is what it is to be a woman. This is what it is to be a part of this family. If you are not sacrificing, if you are not doing, if you are not producing something, if you are not, producing something or nurturing something or giving something or making something or whatever, there was no one to teach me, like she said, the necessity of rest, the necessity of caring for self. There was no such thing. There's no such thing in my family. Like, I have no point of reference, or no, I won't say I have no point of reference around me. The only point of reference I had around me in terms of someone seemingly choosing themselves was my mother. And she just completely disengaged from the family. You get what I'm, so the messaging for me was, it's good and right and loving to martyr yourself. And it's evil and deplorable and hurtful to choose yourself. And there is no in between. There's no way to choose yourself without disregarding everyone else that may depend on you or need you. That was what I've been unpacking basically since I want to say since I had my daughter. In a real way, since I had my daughter, but when I really think about it, since I was a child, since I was like a teenager or whatever. But it really didn't kick in until I had a daughter. And now, like, okay, now I have to put stuff into practice, stuff that I don't even know about. And like I said, feeling that, okay, the status quo isn't working for me. It doesn't feel right, but I don't have anything to aim for. I don't have anything to look at. And the only thing that I have that seems to be in the direction of where I want to go is something that is not okay, in terms of like my mother just doing whatever she wanted to do and not necessarily reaching back.
Productivity mode right now. Things need to get done, but also, I'm not a micromanager, right? I'm like, okay, like these are the goals and this needs to get done, but I'm like, just whenever you want, like just keep in mind. And I'm trying to really be the type of manager that I would want to have, which is, y'all are capable. you're here because I trust you. You do good work, and like I trust that like you're gonna make the right decisions because I'm gonna make the right decisions for me, and I don't want anybody breathing down my neck. And if you need some time, let me know. And if you need this, and I think that it's so easy. Like you brought up the capitalism thing. It is so easy with the desire for more money, but also. Because as a content creator, like the pressure to churn, and I don't want to. I do feel that pressure. I'm gonna be honest with you, but I don't want to be like boss from hell, like and make the people who work with and for me like feel like I'm okay. I would rather like take on that. Maybe this is trauma, but I would rather like internalize that than them internalize that. Like I still want you to have a great life, and I'll just take it on.
I feel that deeply, and I appreciate you reflecting. Like, it's hard, and they're real things.
Yeah.
Like, I am an equity coach, and I work with overachieving, whatever. Most of them are Black women, and we have conversations about this all the time. It's like, where is the balance? How do I, survive in my industry because I still need to make money, but how do I not perpetuate harm?
Yeah.
And a lot of the times we get to a conversation of these standards that you are holding yourself to, are they real?
Yeah. Ooh.
Are they real? Because, and it's not to say that they're wrong, but my question is, are they real? Because the expectation that we put on content creators also comes from other content creators. Mm-hmm. And if there was a different flow that had similar engagement, that had similar hits, would that actually hurt your business? You know, so it's not either or. Yeah. But it's just an example of how when we don't have time to pause and be and interrogate our choices, in my opinion, have someone to support us and talk us through that and pause and ask questions, what we're doing, what we will do is we're going to reinforce what is. We're going to tell ourselves a cycle of the story that we've been told, that we've been taught, that has worked for us, privilege, that has worked for us in the past. We're going to continue to do it.
That is, I think, that is the last part of it that is relevant. But yeah, she just basically said what I've been saying. Like, if you don't have anyone to kind of walk you through the process of how do I manage this and how do I make decisions about where I'm putting my focus, where I'm directing my energy, and how much of it I need to or don't need to be giving and things like that. Like, you reinforce what you know, which is survival mode, which is whatever the people, above you or ahead of you or, sheltering you, housing you, raising you, whatever are doing. You're just going to reinforce that because that's all you know. You need a point of reference. And that is why I made this platform, because I'm just like, okay, I recognize that this has been a struggle for me. Like, every single observation, every single discovery, every single epiphany was hard fought. And it was hard fought because I am going against the grain. I'm going against the operating system. I'm going against my, what's it called? Generational curse of martyrdom, of survival mode, of you have to sacrifice, of, sacrifice or die. Sacrifice yourself or die. You know what I mean? There's nothing else. There's no in between. And then if you're not sacrificed, if you want to live, if you want to really live as opposed to survive, you have to forsake those that you love and that depend on you. And it's been really, really hard. And I know it's not just me. I can see it in the stuff that people are going. There's no way that people are going to go through the stuff that they go through because if they don't believe that this is the only way to do it. You know what I mean? There's no way people are going to continue to let people abuse them and use their bodies and, do all types of horrible things if they don't believe that that is all that's left for them. And ask me how I know, because I was doing a lot of stuff that is beneath me because I didn't think there was any other way to do it. That was the only way to be a good mom. That was the only way to be to not be bitter. A lot of it was not. I don't want to do that. I don't want to be like my mother. I don't want to abandon my child. I don't want my child to feel like I prioritize men over her. You know, I don't want to be like this family member or that family member that, you know, seems low key miserable. You know what I mean? They're nice, they're loving, they're caring, they're the best, whatever, ever, but they don't really look happy. You know what I mean? I think I want to be, I know I want to be happy. I can be happy, can I? All of those types of questions, all of those types of things, while still having to be and produce and care and live. It's a lot. It is a lot. And it makes me feel so good to have this confirmation from all these different places, people that have absolutely nothing to do with each other, people who don't know me, who don't know my day-to-day struggle, who don't know the conversations I'm having and the things that I'm talking about, having these conversations at a moment when I'm going through these things, when I'm thinking about these things, so that I can see it when I'm planning on talking about these things. You know what I mean? That level of synchronicity. And those are the things that we're not noticing, again, because of busyness. We're not noticing when things are aligning. We're not noticing, you know, our next opportune moment to move towards the life we actually want, because we're so caught up in maintaining the paradigm or maintaining, you know, our lives based on the paradigm that came before. And it's really, really important for us to understand that there is always something beyond. Now, does that mean that the thing that's beyond is always what you want or need to do? Not necessarily, but it's that willingness to be able to cross-examine sometimes. Because sometimes you need to be able to see what's beyond and go, okay, yeah, this is where I want to be. This is what I want. Because even that that doubt and that wondering, is there something more, can be a hindrance to actually being authentic in the choice that you're making. You know what I mean? But more often than not, I've come to find that you just don't know what you don't know. But always be willing to say, hey, I don't know what I don't know. I don't know that this is the thing. I just know it doesn't feel right. And I'm willing for my own sake to investigate further to see if there's something else that feels better, that feels more aligned with me in every way. So I've shared the link. If anyone wants to come up and chit and chat with me about the subject, about the video we wrote, or just about anything. Let me kind of what Ania said. She was on a 2-hour work call. I feel like, or are you in like the middle of the country? Because I feel like it's 7:48. And why are they putting you on a call after 5 or at 5? I just don't feel like that's right. I want to go back and kind of look at some of the things I wasn't paying attention. I was paying attention, but because of the flow of the video, I didn't talk about it. Oh yeah, so when we were talking about like the alopecia, Tori Doll says, "Woo child, that sounds like my mother, and she suffers from alopecia. She still works my nerves though." Yeah, the women that are just like, it's all on me, and there's always this kind of like pointed, I don't want to say accusation, but just kind of like a feeling of everyone's failed me coming from, I can't stop because everyone else has failed me. And so I have to keep going and I have to keep doing for everyone. And like nobody can do it better than me. And so it's on me. And Deanne said, my mom went through alopecia when I was a child, but my dad and her mom and her aunt stepped up to deal with the situations. I never realized so many Black women are going through. Yeah. And it's like, it's amazing how your body lets you know, like your body lets you know that it's not working. And that ultimately, that was what I was saying to the person when I'm talking about the situation I had earlier. I was saying I had noticed that person was going through some things like physical changes and stuff, and just wasn't doing too well. And I actually, reached out and just said, hey, this is what I can do to try and help you through this in the meantime, but just here's something to consider. And like I said, that visceral rejection of, but if I'm being honest, and I do try to be as honest as possible, I can remember when I was younger having people, approach me and say, hey, you might not want to do it like that, or da, 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 da. And at the time, it felt to me like they were just saying, hey, you're doing this wrong. And I'm just like, well, how? You know what I mean? Because I saw you do it. Not like this per se, like I'm doing it differently than you would do it, but I didn't see it work out well for you the way you did it either. So like I said, like being in that in-between space of, I see what's going on with you. I know I don't want that, but I don't know what I do want. So I'm just going to do something other than that. You know what I mean? And it's going to be different, and it's going to be messy sometimes, because it's literally experiments. I was talking to, that's what I was trying to explain to them. Like, sometimes you have to look at what you've done, but look at it like the scientific method. You have to try, and then, okay, what worked, what didn't, and tweak this a little bit, and then try again. And, oh yeah, that's not working. And da, 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 da. But if you're not taking that time out to be like, hey, what are you talking about, Petty? If you're not taking that time out to assess what you did already, you're either going to keep doing the same exact things over and over and over again, or you're going to cut out things that actually work because you didn't assess it. You just assumed the whole thing was moot, and you just moved on to something completely different. But you need that introspection to be able to pinpoint what it is your body and your spirit and stuff is trying to tell you. And Tiff says, watch Honk for Jesus. I saw you guys talking about it. I think I will have to watch Honk for Jesus, because I saw the advertisements for it, but I couldn't quite pinpoint exactly, what it was supposed to be. And Lolly, hi Lolly. I know I saw you earlier and I didn't shout you out. Hi, welcome. Thank you for coming. Said this lab was a great reminder. I'm glad, and that it was a reminder for me. Like I said, the universe has been saying this to me this whole time. And even after I get off of here, I'm going to because it just occurred to me, like, okay, you got the message and you gave it to the people, but like there was a little bit of something there for me. Like I told y'all, like I struggle with actually resting in my stillness. I do struggle with resting in my stillness, because even if I'm not doing this stuff and I'm like, oh, this is relaxing, there's still that mental part of me that's like, yeah, but you could be doing this and this and this and this and this and this and this, and maybe if you do this and this, it's never just this is the destination right now. You know what I mean? It's always looking for, okay, what do I need to be doing? And what do I need to be thinking about? And what ideas should I be working on? And which idea is going to be the one that does this thing? And, so with that being said, I appreciate each and every one of you for coming back every single week, showing up for me, make me feel nice, make me feel pretty. It is my pleasure and my honor to be able to offer these ideas for your consideration, and also to play any small part in helping you to kind of sift through your junk that you may be carrying and stuff like that. Definitely wonderfully meaningful to me. Thank you so much, Christina Bell. So with that, I am going to let you guys go. Thank you so much for coming in. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Also, don't forget, there is the Birth Your Bag bundle. If you guys, or if you know anyone who needs to know about credit, about 401ks, job searching, resume building, things like that, it is a nice little good to have in the tool belt. Definitely good to have in the tool belt. So with that, I release you, and I will see you all next week.